Yes, it is.
Oh, okay, I will.
Evidently to explain why it's closed. To explain why they're closing the meeting. No, that's what Roman told you.
It was huge.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Go share conference, so yeah, call me, cell phone.
Curtis was telling me yesterday.
It's really smooth.
He was telling me it's
It's wonderful. Yeah.
Where you time? Oh, not on the time. For this.
And here,
Oh. Okay. Hey, we're showtime here. 10:30. We're waiting for you guys.
Let me go get my stuff then. I'll be back.
Well, basically, I don't know what this is really about, and so we have a lot of people here because our meetings are open meetings, so that's why the explanation of closed session recommended by you. I don't know if you guys want to give the reason and if it's legitimate.
No, we're not gonna put the reason on the record, but it is a legitimate reason. It's a personnel issue, and we need to close the session. So, sorry, folks.
Not according to the agenda, if I may speak to the commission.
Yep.
According to the agenda, it talks about policy, and it doesn't specify any individual employee. It talks about investigative policy. It talks about retention and hiring. There's a bunch of things there, which, Roman, I intend to talk to you about, if I may have the floor right now.
Sure.
2 years ago, we took a ride around the loop to talk about some issues that I had there, and we talked about these very issues, if you remember. And which, by the way, those issues have never been addressed, and I've talked to you twice about that. And so that's why I'm here today, is to talk about why these policies are not being enforced. And that's what this agenda is talking about right here, right now. So with that being said, if you look at the Montana Code, which I looked up, this does not constitute a closed-door meeting. That's your decision to make, not theirs.
Right. And in the past, when I have done these, it's usually a personnel issue. You're correct on that, but the person whose right to privacy is in question, that may or may not outweigh the public's right to know, is here for me to ask, do you wish it to be closed or open? So who are we asking that of today?
In terms of which person?
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's a personnel issue, then the person has to be.
If it's a personnel issue, you don't disclose the name of the person that it's about or in regards to the question, because then what you've done is spared the person or disclose what you shouldn't disclose. So there's a mixed theory of that around. Landmark case is one out of Dillon, out of Beaverhead County, that talked about the question, but at the point in time, when do you say, this is about Joe Smo, this is what it's about, and then everybody has a look at that person, what's it for? So you don't disclose who it is at that point in time until you figure out if it's a personnel matter, and the person who's the question of the discussion can waive or require that it be a public meeting. That's the Wolf Point School District case that came down last year, where the school district said, we're not gonna open the meeting, and the person that was the teacher said, no, the meeting needs to be open. And the Supreme Court said, yes. If the employee wants the meeting open, the employee can require that and do it.
So that's why I'm saying, where is that person who may want this to stay open?
The person who does not want the meeting open, that's the issue, because the person's been the subject of an investigation, et cetera. It's also a function, too, of a confidential criminal justice investigation that other people are looking at. So I don't give you the files, nobody can get the file, and if you're investigating a person for a murder, a theft, a homicide, a burglary, a robbery, that's confidential criminal justice, and that is not a public discussion. So the question becomes, and you can't let the file go. We just went through this whole issue with Barsati's question. At what point in time with the investigation open do you disclose the file to everybody? It's like saying, I know you murdered someone, but here's the file of how we investigated you to prove it. That isn't how you do it. What you have to do first is get through the record. So in terms of where the record goes and how you do that, that is a policy question to ask commissioners about and say, this is something we've not confronted before. So this is the questions for where it is. So that's the reason why, when it's a personnel matter for a person in doing it, you can close the meeting and say, this is the discussion, this is where you do it, and that's how. And the person or persons, but person does not want to open a meeting, doesn't want to say, this is it, I want to be smeared publicly. No, you don't have to do that, and if they don't want to, they don't have to do it. That's their choice. That's the issue of also in the briefs regarding the Brady disclosures. The question is, there's a constitutional right to know versus a constitutional right of privacy. Which one trumps the other? That's the question. And that's really the issue that's set forth in the briefs, and I assume you read all 15 of them since you just told us about it. Did you read the 15 briefs on the Brady
No,
question?
but I will tell
If you did not read the briefs, don't have the
Well,
argument.
apparently you haven't read the agenda, because the agenda has a multitude of things on it. It discusses policy. This
had three
board
things.
is open to open policy. We can discuss policy without discussing the individual person. There's nothing on this agenda that's specific to any individual person. It talks about generalities.
Each
If
subject,
this agenda was to address a person, I understand it would be a closed meeting.
each of the things
It's not.
regarding a person is a function of policy. What does the manual read? What does it say? Where does it go?
That's
So
right.
it is
And
a
that is
person.
open to the public.
It is not, because it's about a person, what do you do with this person, where does it go? There are general questions in terms of where it sits, but you don't actually disclose that person's name.
He's Frank.
And you don't disclose what it is or
I
the
don't
fact.
disagree with that, but anything that discusses policy within the county should be open to the public. That's pretty clear in the law.
A broad policy should be open to the county. This is
That's
not a
right.
broad policy, this is a question of what do you do if
Not
this
what your agenda
circumstance is
says.
in this case.
This, but you guys talk about a closed door, like I told Roman a minute ago, it's not a closed door, it's secret. That's what I don't like.
It's,
It is secret. You can't, closed door secret, it's just,
That's what confidential means.
no bullshit. You
Okay.
can't, I mean, I don't believe it.
Okay, well, you
So
don't
much
have
for
to.
transparency in this county. And the statute says that you should have an open meeting and close the parts that are relating to one individual.
And that's what we did. That's what it
No,
says.
that's not what you're doing here.
Well,
You
that is-
don't know what we're doing.
Exactly,
What
That's
are you
not
doing?
following your agenda.
exactly.
That's what you're
I would love.
That's what confidential means. Confidential criminal justice information means that it's confidential. You cannot have that information. So when we have something we have to discuss, that will be a closed door meeting, and only that. And that is the way our laws work. That's the way things work. So, you know,
Can you come up front a second, please?
um,
I want to ask
That's
you a
the way it works
question
in
regarding this.
California, but this is Montana.
I don't have my shoes on, to be honest, so I don't wanna walk up front. I gotta go get my things, but
Okay.
can you just tell me
When you get your things, I'll ask you.
It is not only,
I
a-
don't need to walk up front for a question.
I want you to show me on, go ahead.
Well, I think it's up to the commission to decide what we're gonna do here. You have talked about transparency within the county many times. And obviously, these people that are here want transparency. And I brought up a subject that you need to address about transparency that's never been addressed in 2 years, and we still have the issues out there. That, to me, is compliance, retention, all the things that's on this agenda right here, and that's why I'm here today. And so, if there's a different agenda that we don't know about,
It's not-
that should be specific,
Those are
because
the
we
rules.
don't know that.
those are the broad words about a specific person or specific circumstance, and you miss two things. One is this: it is not only a statutory obligation in Montana, we are the only state with a constitutional right to open government. Sorry you didn't get a copy of the Constitution when you got the statute upstairs. But in our state, it's constitutional, not just statutory. So all of you who are telling me the statute, fine, but the Constitution is worth this much, the statute's only worth this. You have a right to observe your government. That's the law.
That's right.
And I uphold it, and the landmark cases that upheld it in Montana, I was on the long end of winning. So I believe in it. The fact that the word says, in a broader sense, it's about a policy question, a decision, what do we do? That's a person, it's not worded for a specific person too, so persons don't say, well, who conjecture-wise is this? You don't hand out your tax return, it's confidential. You don't hang out your bank account, it's confidential. You don't hand out your employment record for your former boss, it's confidential.
I think
This is the same thing, there's no difference.
Can I ask a quick question? It's just a simple question. Why did you guys decide that on Friday you were gonna have a closed door meeting with the commissioners, which typically have an open door meeting? The public knows that, they send out an agenda, but evidently Roman and Dwayne didn't have any clue that you guys were gonna do
They
this
don't,
closed door
because
meeting, but why did you choose this day?
the reason we chose this day is we had other issues pressing, we have statutes. We have things that we have to respond to, and we have things that we need to discuss. We are following the law. We're following the guidelines. You know, sir, we are following the guidelines. We're doing what we are required to do. And if people aren't going to give us the leeway to do what the law tells us to do and how to do it, then you're binding everybody, including yourselves. Because we are the ones that are following the law, trying to figure out everything right now. And this is a meeting that we need to have.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Does this pertain to somebody, an employee that is an elected person?
No.
No.
So, you mean to tell me that you're gonna sit there and have this meeting, close the doors, run everybody out of here, and not discuss anything other than the two issues or whatever you have about those people? Because if something else is being said,
It's not.
if another policy is even mentioned, we have a right to know what is going on. And this county has so far forgot to let people know what is going on that it's not funny.
Here's what I would tell you. I commend you all for being here, because here's the thing. It was not done in a secret. You asked, why is it on the agenda? It's on the agenda because I told the commissioners and they understood it needs to be on the agenda.
But
We
they didn't
didn't
even
have-
know what this was
We
about.
didn't have-
Roland just disclosed to me he had no clue what this was about.
Because we didn't have a secret meeting to say no, but it's about the issue of what do we do? This person, this policy, what do you do with it? Where does it go? That's the question. It's
Because-
about employees.
We didn't have a secret meeting to have a secret meeting.
Can I ask a question?
That's why it's so
back to
confidential. They
California.
don't even know what we're having a meeting about.
I'd like to know, when you start talking, you didn't introduce yourself. I have no idea who you
Why
are.
are you so pissed
That's
off?
good. Wally Condon, I do the work in the civil for a lot of counties, which is what I do all over Montana. Have for years, grew up down the road from here. My dad was here forever and I did Alberton forever too. So I do civil for counties and civil for law schools and stuff.
What's your name?
Wally Condon, C-O-N-G-D-O-N.
And what position do you hold in the county and where were you elected?
I'm not elected, I'm a civil deputy attorney. You're hired, you apply for the job and you end up hired. That's what it is.
And nobody in this county approved your hiring other than Debbie?
I did.
No, she approved it, but the commissioners approved the hiring of the person. You applied to the county for the job. That's what you do.
Everything's been followed.
Except this meeting.
No,
Just like
this
to
meeting
take care
is
of-
being followed.
But it's still in secret.
Well, sir, you gotta understand, there's obligations that we have to follow by law as well. And we're trying to follow those obligations. Would you like me to come to your place of business and just spouting off things so that everybody could hear? I mean, we
I don't have a
need
business.
to have some confidential meetings with the board, with the
Not on
commissioners.
Friday.
Okay, and if I don't have a business, but if I did have a business, if anybody were to come in here and spout off about my business, it's okay with me, because I'm not doing nothing illegal anyway.
I have nothing to hide.
But
I mean,
you don't
that's right.
have confidential requirements in your business, do you, sir?
I think the difference for me is that it's not spelled out that this is about a specific employee.
You cannot say, you never disclose a secret in an agenda that you're talking confidentially about, because
You
you
can talk
just ruined the
confidential.
confidential part.
As long as you don't
Do you
name them.
understand that?
No.
As long as-
Okay, let
I
me
don't
try.
think he's saying to name names. I think he's saying specifically
closed
But
meeting.
that's
about
About-
an employee of the county. It doesn't specifically say that. You
But-
don't have to name names.
Well,
You can be more
it's generic
specific
for
on
a
an
reason.
agenda.
It's generic for a reason,
Yeah.
because it's confidential.
But
So,
this is usually an open door public meeting. And
yes, it is, and we always
You
abide by open
specifically-
door public meetings until we cannot legally do so. And then when we can't legally do so, then we have a meeting that's confidential. That is not
So why
difficult
would
to
it be
understand.
any different than calling a meeting amongst the attorney and the deputy attorney and the commissioners? Why would you do it in a public forum and then call it closed door?
Because if you do it secretly, otherwise, you're breaking the intention of the rule. The rule is you have a right to know what the government's
It'd be
doing.
even more secret than
And
secret.
if you do it more secretly,
Gotcha.
which is what you just suggested, fine. We can do it as a secret today at 4 o'clock when none of you are here. We didn't do that. We choose not to,
Well,
and
do you-
they chose not to. That's breaking the rules.
I kind of think,
Thank you.
Can I do one question, please?
okay, one more question, and we're gonna kind of make a decision.
Because, can I give you this? I would like you to ask Ms. Jackson which part of Montana Code 2-3-203 applies to this meeting. It basically states out that you cannot, your reasonings.
That's why I just gaveled in, because it's my opinion, and Wayne and I don't know what this is about. So that's why the agenda says, they talked to our secretary, and they said that it should be a closed session recommended by them. And I agree that it is, I don't see any particular employee. It sounds like it's kind of a, not to disparage you guys, but I wanted you guys, when we're here, for us to find out if it is in fact, it is the chair's unfortunately, I'm the chair, it is the chair's decision. And in my experience, and you know, I've been commissioner 12 years now, but closed meetings with a quorum require that they're open, and the individual's right to privacy outweighs the public's right to know. When the individual's right to privacy outweighs the public's right to know, then the meeting does remain open until and unless the individual then requests that it be closed, because it's their personal performance or individual stuff we're talking about. Then, if that person requests that it be closed, the chair makes a decision if it really does in fact meet the threshold of their right to privacy outweighing the public's right to know. And I'm not seeing anybody for me to ask that of. And so I think that we probably should cancel this meeting, since we don't have someone here that I can ask that of to would be able to make it be a closed meeting. Otherwise, all meetings are open until that person, individual, requests that it be closed. And so I don't know.
The problem, Roman, is the person that the meeting's about, when they come forward and say, I want the meeting closed, kick everybody out, then the cat is out of the bag completely, number one. And number two, when it's a criminal justice investigation on the side, you've now told everybody who you're investigating for the crime or whatever else by saying we want the meeting closed. Because it's a confidential, it's a crime team, it's this myriad world of where you sit of which is which. So it's not just open meeting law, it's right of privacy, and it's also confidential criminal information too. So they're all in there.
Well, I
That's
think
our requirement.
Since this is the first time we've heard of it or understood it, I suggest we postpone this right now until
Yeah, and that we can do.
until I can research it more or talk to Mako, and you guys can do you're the lawyer, that's why we let it get to this point. And I don't want to be able to try to explain it, but it seems like we're spinning our wheels with disagreement here, and so far, what you've said hasn't persuaded me from the old rule that I understood, which is the right individual must be here to close a quorum of commissioner meeting, otherwise we are open meeting state and an open meeting county.
Which makes sense, but the employee wants it closed, not discussed otherwise.
The
But
employee's not here for you to sit.
right, and they're not here because
Yeah.
that violates the
I
rule of
understand that.
confidential. That's the
But
problem.
that kind of, as far as whenever I read like the Billings PD thing, all the Wolf Point, it
Yeah.
always seems, sometimes people make an error in their decision, the chairman have, but basically it seems like you have to have that person there, and then you have to make the call whether it really does meet the threshold of their right to privacy outweighs the public's right to know. Sometimes, even though it's an individual's action on the line, the public might still need to know, like the case of the Billings officers and the dispatcher. Well, yeah, that was kind of an intimate moment of privacy, but it's still a big enough deal that the public should know about it.
That's right.
Yes, Mr. Combs.
I mean, I think, like you said, we're spinning our wheels. I think the inconsistency is what's on the agenda and what's being brought forward. I think if it was a personnel issue, it should say personnel issue. But it clearly doesn't say personnel issue,
Right.
so.
And he just put what they said to tell Don to put on the agenda. And like I said, me and Dwayne don't know. I'm still clueless, so.
And so we go ahead and end this meeting. We leave. What's to stop them from having the meeting? Everybody goes to we're gone, nobody's here. Oh, Deb Jackson and her protege come down to your guys' office and say, well, we need to really talk about this. And I hate to say it, this county, since I've lived here, has gotten really
Sir, I don't do what's against the law. I'm not going to do that.
Okay, well,
I wonder if
We
it's
followed
somebody
the
in the
policy
room.
so that we could have a genuine legal conversation. And for you to contribute that to our motives, I take offense to. Please
Well-
don't do that.
I think it's a legitimate
Why are you
question
getting so
myself.
upset?
Perhaps it's someone in the room unwilling to state their privacy in the public. I get it, but by the same token, if it's an employee of this county and it affects everyone, as Roman said, the right to public knowledge may outweigh the privacy, and until clarity is made to our commissioners and not generalities of policy and things
can
like
speak.
that on the agenda, then you're gonna have the public here. Please don't be offended, Deb, but it's our job too.
No, I don't mind having your job, I don't mind that. I don't take offense to that. I do take offense when you contribute motives to me that are wrong motives, because that's wrong.
History repeats itself, that's all I can say.
I am not
I've seen it too
historical.
much.
I came here May 13th. I'm not historical.
From California.
Well,
I don't
Personal,
think he was accusing
first-hand
anybody of
experience, no,
anything.
that one's first-hand
I think we have
experience.
to at least consider the integrity and character of our commissioners
That's
somewhat.
what I was just.
And I think that what was just described here, we gotta hope that that never happens in the county. But, you know, it can happen in life, but I doubt that that's gonna happen.
No, I mean, we are trying to be friends.
And it wasn't directed at you, and it wasn't directed at Deb, it was just an overall,
I mean,
that I've seen it happen throughout my life. And, you know, people are not transparent.
If we were, I mean, all I kind of alluded to is if we were trying to be non-transparent, the problem wouldn't be on the agenda at all. Nobody would even know about it. We are trying to be transparent. It was posted this way because we don't know what it's about, and I don't like I don't like it when anybody in a public meeting says closed session without any understanding, so I do ask now and say, we'll make sure it's understood, it's recommended by the county attorney, and then we'll sit through it like we are today to see if it still reaches. The lawyers are smarter than me, most of the time lawyers, they have a degree, so we wanted to get together here and see if it would meet everybody's standard of actually continuing
Degrees
on.
don't always mean this.
So now that everybody's here,
So everybody knew.
so now that everybody's here, why can't they just discuss other issues that are going on rather than that issue?
Well, because
Percent.
other people in the county might want to be here if we're gonna change.
Okay.
I mean, like, you're here now for this, but what if we talk about another issue, let's say it's dump trucks and or the road issue that Mr. Gurley. Now someone else might say, hey, if that had been posted, I would have been to that meeting, because I want to talk about roads and
True.
dump trucks.
So
Okay.
here's the
So it would be
interesting,
illegal in that regard, and someone else would come in and yell that we're not being transparent. You talked about this and it wasn't on the agenda. So this meeting is gonna end now, and if you guys want to
Thank you,
continue
Will.
to ask questions in the hall or whatever, people, feel free to do so, but we're not gonna talk about another subject, unless it's on the agenda. Now, public comments come up at 11:30, which means anybody can comment. We don't make decisions, and we don't necessarily have to respond with answers, but that's the next thing we're gonna do is public comment, and then, of course, in the afternoon, we have a really exciting budget.
two notes from legal room, and one, thank you for understanding. By switching to something else, you just broke the rule to be secret.
Right.
So people who wanted something else were doing the thing they're accusing you of, and you did not, and you're great. And the second thing, to have this conversation, we'll probably just put it on the agenda at the next meeting to say, personnel matter, employee discussion, and call it at that, and leave it that way labeled, because we still need to decide what is going to be done and where that goes, but if that is a better, more specific way to put it, we can do it that way, and that's fine.
I'll still check with other groups.
Oh, that's
to make sure,
fine.
'cause
I think
there's
that's-
not gonna be a person right there at the time, I don't know if that would satisfy a quorum of commissioners, but we'll see.
That always has
If
before.
there's a quorum of commissioners,
Yeah.
it will be posted.
I do need to also add that Wally and I have had a discussion, because if I post this next week, it actually, I have been trained by our general counsel that you do mention the name of the individual, not the topic, but the individual, and then the individual tells whether or not they want to continue with it closed. So if you see that next week, depending on who wins the argument, Wally or me, I want you to know that no laws are being broken, but that is the way I've been advised by general counsel in the past. So don't be alarmed if I follow general counsel, but I will be in touch with them, asking, did it change with this, Wally, what was the case?
Wolf Point didn't change it. Wolf Point did not advertise the name, that was not the question in the case, but it didn't change it. There.
Okay, so anyway, if you see it with the person's name on there, you know, I did not break any laws, I'm doing it according to past protocols. But we'll get that settled. I just don't want anyone to be alarmed if you see the name on
And the other complicated part of this one is potentially a CCJ, confidential criminal investigation issue. So because of that, you also don't disclose a name about what and which. So that is something Mako has not heard yet. And Mako and I disagree with the question, do you list a name or not?
Right.
That's a question to sort out with Mako.
Yep, I will be in touch with them
Yeah.
to take this further.
We've been here talking, what, an hour,
No, 25 minutes.
25 minutes? But we still don't know who the individual is.
That's
That's
what it
the
means by
discussion.
confidential.
Yeah.
You will not know who the individual is.
But if you don't have the guts to stand up and say, I don't like it, and say it in front of us and ask for it in person here, with all of us here,
It's not the guts of them to stand up. We have obligations by law not to produce names when things are confidential. Let me give you an example.
Just a minute.
If you're out there and you commit a crime and you don't want your name known, it's confidential. We don't, at certain points, if we're investigating you, we don't list your name because you may not be guilty. You may not be guilty, and you don't want your name spread around.
But there's a way not to bring the name up here in public. You got a phone right there, the guy can come in, or whoever it is, come in and say, I am, and this is, I'm complaining about this, and I want it done this way. You don't need to know my name for me to do that.
Sir, when he walks in the door, you'll know his name, wouldn't you?
Or when he's
done.
He can testify on phone, you do it all the time.
You would know the name.
Not necessarily.
Okay, I'm done arguing.
Yeah, you
Thank
lost.
Yeah.
I do. Okay, are we dismissed?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Adjourned. Thank you.
Sayonara.
I don't care.
Thank you.
I'll give him a call. I'll send my stuff to Lindsay, but I'll give him a call.
The Blackfoot thing is a hazard.
Which one?
The Blackfoot was the road paved off and that was supposed to be fixed. And the same with those other issues that we talked about.
That
You
culvert-
drive it
that
now,
culvert.
it's all broke up, it's a wreck. It needs addressed, so.
Nice to meet you. I live in Dvorak.
Nice to meet you.